Chapter 13 Sabor fresa July 1979 James come to all at once. He was flying, then he was falling. Then it was blinding pain. Then nothing. Darkness. Now is blinding lights and two loud voices. Every breath hurts. In his lungs, the panic has been building, so when his eyes fly open, the first word James manages is Regulus. "Mr. Potter, please!" An urgent but gentle voice. The touch of hand somewhere he can pinpoint. "Don't move too much. You have several broken ribs, a possible spine lesion, a grade 4 concussion, a dislocated shoulder, and a punctured lung. We need you to—" "Mr. Potter!" James tries to push himself up on his elbows. The room spins, his head aches, but he needs someone to tell him Regulus is all right. He needs to get up, to get on his feet and find wherever they are keeping Regulus. Where is he? Why isn't he in this room? James looks around wildly. Everything is a blur. His eyes can't make out any shapes, but he tries. A black curl, the flash of a gray eye, pale hands. It's all James needs, but no matter how hard he fights the people trying to pin him down, there is no Regulus inside. Where did they take him? "You're assuming he's alive," a voice nags, and James wants to throw up. There's bile in his throat. A second later, the room still spinning, and "Immobilus! Oh, you!" He would bare his teeth and growl at the healer who's just flicked her wand at him. But with the freezing charm in place, all he can do is blink, suspended there in his hospital bed. "Blink once for no, and twice for yes," the healer says, glaring at him. "Do you understand?" James blinks twice. "Good. Your injuries are severe, Mr. Potter. The lesion on your spine can paralyze you if you upset it too much. Thankfully, this is a magical hospital and not a muggle one, so if you let us do our job," each word is punctuated by a severe finger jab right in front of his face, "then you'll be walking with minimal discomfort in a few days. Do you understand?" Two more blinks. Mr. Black is alive. If James wasn't frozen in place, he would sob. He can feel it in his chest. A tie knob unfurling. The release of tension is overwhelming, and his vision blurs with tears. Regulus is alive. Regulus is, but he's under observation. His injuries aren't as bad as yours because you took the full force of the fall, but there are other issues the healers need to address. What does she mean, other issues? What else could possibly be wrong with Regulus except for injuries sustained during the fall? There's a memory, a blip, in a much longer scene that holds the answer, but James's head hurts too much to focus on it. The concussion, he supposes. "Do you promise not to move if I let you out of stasis?" He blinks twice, and the healer waves her wand. When he falls back against the bed, he cries out at the burst of pain. The healer makes a quiet sound before gesturing to the other witches and wizards. They all wear lime green robes, the uniform of every St. Mungo's healer. James hasn't been here since he was a child and fell out of the tree in their backyard. He'd broken several bones that day and remembers all too well how painful the healing process had been. He's not looking forward to it, but at least he and Regulus are alive. "Regulus," he croaks again. "He's all right?" "More or less," the healer, the ringleader of them all, he's noticed, tells him. She gestures to a younger healer who vanishes behind a screen and reappears with an armful of various colored vials. He has a minor concussion, a broken wrist, and a few fractured ribs. His healing process will be less traumatic than yours, I believe. Here, drink this. What is it? Something to ease the concussion. Drink. It tastes vile, but James swallows the liquid. It's a bit fizzy, like drinking a muggle soda. The healer makes him drink 3 before she's satisfied. Then it's another potion administered by a younger healer with a name tag that reads Beatrice Jones. Open up, she says softly, a little sheepish, and James reluctantly lets her pour the next potion down his throat. This one is even worse, but he knows there's no point in arguing with them. There's a brief pain in his shoulder, a temporary fire in his lungs, but both ebb quickly. My parents? He asks after Healer Jones steps aside, her armful of remaining potions suspicious. There are so many of them. They can't all be for James, can they? She begins to line them up as the other healers arranged his limbs on the bed. He's dimly aware he's in hospital robes, his Quidditch uniform gone. How long was he unconscious? Serious? The theme? The first healer purses her lips. Your parents are on the 5th floor in the waiting areas. Once we moved you to a permanent room, they'll be able to come visit. Mr. Black as well. Your teammates weren't allowed in the hospital. There are too many of them and our emergency areas are too small. I'm sorry, but it's family and friends only. They are my friends. I understand, but there were too many of them. Your parents, Mr. Black and Mr. Lapin, are waiting upstairs. James squeezes his eyes shut, beyond frustrated. How long until I have a permanent room? Don't fuss about, and we'll get you there soon. We just need you in a comfortable position before we administer the stronger potions that will bend your bones and heal the lesion on your spine. My lung? My shoulder? The healer grins at him. Oh, those are fixed. James blinks rapidly at her. Since when? Since about 5 minutes ago when you drank the last few potions. Those aren't your hospital wing level remedies, Mr. Potter. It's like I said, we'll have you right as rain in a few days. But only if you promise to let us do our job. Merlin. He knew more than a few Quidditch players who'd been patched back to perfection by St. Mungo's healer, but he had no idea just how skilled they are. He supposes it makes sense considering the requirements to become a healer here. Still, he nods once and says, I won't fight, but can you tell me if Regulus is still here? He's here. We moved him to the 4th floor. James furrows his brows. He doesn't know enough about St. Mungo's to understand what this means. The 4th floor? Yes. It's where we keep our long-term residents. Regulus comes to slowly. His whole body aches. The lightweight blanket on him scratches against his skin. It's too rough. Not like the ones at home. A medical smell hits his nose first. Then distant sound of a hospital? His eyes blink wide open, and he looks around frantically at the large room. Walls in calming soft pastel color, furniture white and freshly cleaned. A bed, a bathroom door. On the wall the unmistakable emblem of a bone crossed with a wand. St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. Why is he here? He tries to rub at his face to clear the blurriness clinging to his vision, but there's a small tube inserted into his left wrist. It tugs uncomfortably, stretching his skin and pulling at something inside. He stares at it, at the clear liquid pumped into his veins. It feels startlingly, well, muggle. Reggie, are you? Oh, thank Merlin, you're awake. Moons, he's awake. Regulus flinches at the sound of his brother's voice. His head hurts, a gentle pounding, and he would absolutely love for the quiet of his hospital room to remain quiet. "Shh, Sirius," he croaks. His voice sounds all wrong. "My head hurts." "That would be the concussion. Not as bad as James said, but you're up there." Sirius's face swims into view, twisted with a worry like Regulus has never seen before. "Do you remember what happened?" No. He doesn't, though the slowly dawning realization that James also has a concussion makes him sift through his memories of the last 24 hours, of which there are almost none. He can't keep the panic out of his voice when he asks, "Sirius, what happened?" "You fell, Reggie. You tried to perform a Vronsky feint, and you..." Sirius swallows, gaze shifting away and back again. "I don't know what happened any more than anyone else does. You were flying fine, and then suddenly James was sprinting to you and you fell off your broom and... It's a miracle he caught you at all. You tried to perform a Vronsky feint." Cold dread spread over his body like spill water over a table. If Regulus wasn't already lying down, his knees would give out. His chest is tight. His skin feels 2 sizes too small. The sensations are familiar to him by now, the telltale sign of a bad coughing fit. The perennial exhaustion is there too. In his throat, the scratching feeling he can't get rid of, and the tiny whistling sound every time he tries to take a slightly deeper breath. But in addition to those, there's a sharp pain in his right side, like shards of glass embedded in his flesh. Even the smallest of movements send a fiery flash of hot pain all over him. Disturbed, Regulus pulls up the hospital gown and recoils at the sight of an ugly, purple and yellow bruise over his ribs. Trauma, the doctors call it. That much he knows. So how did he sustain... You fell, Reggie. No, not that. Please, anything but that, it can't. Serious? He's dizzy with panic. What day is today? His brother blinks, confused by the question, but he answers anyway and in few words destroys Regulus's dreams. It's the 22nd of July. The shock of it rocks him to his very core. If he could move, Regulus would run screaming from his brother and the cruel reality he's just voiced. Sirius shaped the words and spoke them into the air and stole Regulus's future so carelessly, like it was nothing, like Regulus's life hasn't just ended. He's grappling with the full meaning behind Sirius's words, behind the date. When Remus steps into the hospital room with Effie and Monty, 4 sets of eyes on him, loving, caring, concerned. Regulus flinches violently. They can't be here. It's too much. He doesn't know what happened, but yes, he does. The details don't matter. They don't make a difference. The outcome is the same. His body betrayed him during tryouts, and he failed. His dream is shattered. His whole life has lost meaning, and he can't deal with anyone right now. Shame pulls him under a layer of despair so deep he doesn't think he'll ever come back up for air. Leave, he says. His eyes burn. He can't have them witness this great failure. Not them. Not the people he thinks of as family. Leave me alone. Sirius blanches. Regulus vaguely registers how tired he looks, how distressed. Worry clings to Sirius like a second skin as he staggers closer to Regulus's hospital bed. Live? Reggie? What? Sirius, Effie says, putting a hand on Sirius's shoulder. Don't overwhelm him. Go check on James. I think they are moving him soon. Regulus's heart thuds inside his chest at the mention of James. But Merlin forgive him. He can't even think of him right now. It only makes the mortification coating his inside thicker. James went through so much trouble to get him that scarf. He put his name on the line for it, called in favors even though he's only been with the team for a year. James had so much faith in him. And Regulus shuddered that along with his own prospects for the future. Shame burns like hot coals on his tongue. All right, Sirius says, defeated. He glances at his brother one more time. I'm so glad you're okay. They slip from the room, but Effie stays. Reggie, Regulus meets Effie's eye. Guilt and desolation ravage her face, turning her mouth into a grim slash. Her brown eyes, always full of such light and warmth, are dull and watery. He knows what she wants to say, but he can't hear it right now. If she speaks, then it will be real. He's not ready for that. Please, Effie, he croaks. I need a moment, don't. She pulls herself together remarkably fast. With a firm nod, she gestured to the small orb floating near Regulus's bedside table. If you touch that, the nurses will be alerted. Anything you need, call for them. One of the doctors will be here soon to talk to you. We're going to check on James. Then we'll be back. Okay. Effie clears her throat, reaches inside her handbag, and pulls out a jar full of petals. Some of them are crushed. Delicately, she sets it on the bedside table next to him. I'm bringing the others from home. The doctors need to examine them. I've told them that they have to handle them with care. Regulus makes a noise from the back of his throat. A wounded animal, cornered and resigned to its fate. He nods, reaches for the jar with a trembling hand and brings it into the bed with him. If he focuses on the flowers, he doesn't have to process the other bit. The thing he wordlessly asks Effie not to say. Effie hesitates by the door. James is banged up, but he'll be okay, she tells him gently. He needs to wait for his spine to regenerate. That's why he can't move yet, but he'll come see you as soon as he can. Okay, he says quietly. It's a relief James is okay. Regulus believes that he is because Effie and Sirius wouldn't be half this calm if he wasn't. And deep down, Regulus wants to know. Despite everything else, he's curious. James is hurt, and Regulus isn't, so out of it that he hasn't put two and two together. James must have been injured helping him survive the fall. How? Why? It's a miracle he caught you at all. But asking about that means opening the door to memories. It means acknowledging that something went wrong on that one day when Regulus couldn't afford to make mistakes. It means grappling with the fact that he only ever wanted one thing, and his own body denied it to him. With Effie and everyone else gone, the room is almost unbearably quiet. Beside the steady beep of a machine and his own tiny breaths, there's nothing. He's been asleep for days, but he's still exhausted. At least he isn't miserable when he sleeps. He closes his eyes, thankful he's alone, and doesn't bother to wipe at the thin trail of a tear down his cheek.